start the new year off right here. So we're bringing back a couple of the good ones.
Welcome, Collective, to another great episode of Brews and Builds. And this episode could not have been done except by our amazing patrons. Whether you're part of the Collective, Squeeze Choir, BigTucks, Mr. Combo, Storm Count, it doesn't matter. We love you guys and thank you for the support.
God, well, guys, if you would like to help us out financially, help us improve the content, maybe even do net new content, head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMDTower. We have many different tiers. Literally, guys, for $1 a month, you get a bunch of different benefits and inclusions within our community. But starting at the $5 tier on up, you actually get swag like RK Post exclusive patron tokens, playmats, sleeves, coins, all that good stuff. So please go support CMD Tower. Now, we do have a referral program. So if you're an existing patron and you get someone to join the collective, have them let us know via Patreon and we'll send you some free swag or something just to help thank you for growing the community. Now, if you can't do a monthly program, but you would like to actually pick up some of the merch that we talk about, head over to our store, cmdtower.com/merch. The exciting thing is that we do have our foil Brews and Builds Constellation playmat for sale. They're only $25, white stitched, real thick. It's a real thick boy. Now, we wouldn't be able to do this episode without the glorious Squee McGee. He is our audio editor and is helping out with Brews and Builds for a little bit with our video editor. So Squee does run all of the audio editing at MTG Action 4 News, does run Rich Chaos Records, and just a genuine great guy. He's in the Discord, he loves to troll people, and he does have the deck that shall not be named. So redacted for real, deck. Go follow him on Instagram, Rich Chaos Records. Go follow him on Twitter. And if you need any editing from an audio perspective, hit him up. He'd be happy to help. Now, this video is brought to you by @_Tcoats. Tyler does all of our video editing, and he is the one that's actually making YouTube more consumable for the collective. So now instead of these 1.5, 2 hour long YouTube videos, you guys are just getting grains, hops, yeast, spice, bottle capping, short little 10, 15 minute deals, maybe even only 5 minutes. So that way you guys can thoroughly enjoy that YouTube content, consume it in very small fashions, like when you're on the porcelain throne. But of course, the free way to help us out is just share the content you're watching and listening to, because every little bit of interaction from the collective does help. So Brews and Builds is our deck tech series, but since we conquered the path to 32, tackled tons of EDH themes, we're going to be discussing, or rather, theory crafting, a deck that doesn't really exist yet. Each month will consist of new decks, and we correlate how these decks are constructed, similar to how beer is brewed. So we broke it down into 4 different categories. It says, how does your board interact with all of your opponents? We call that HOPS.
And hops give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal floral flavors, grow in a variety of strands, and help distinguish subcategories like IPAs. Our hop choices help clear and interact with the board, so your deck can ultimately do what it wants.
So today,
we finally got here.
We are doing another theory craft, and of course, it's your boy, Mr. Combo. I'm the one that kind of threw out the idea. And you guys know, I've thrown it out in the Discord. I wanted to build a deck that was just text.deck, or what I call Cinco de lots of text. This is a deck
Five of a lot of text?
Well, 5 colors, lots of text.
Okay.
So we're doing Esika, God of the Tree, to the board state and hop profile. BigTuck, why don't you kick us off? What's your first hoppy card?
So this is where the wheel turns, and we get from the greasy picks in the grain to the much more slimy and, I would say, occasionally drenched cards in the hop section. So the first one, this was actually talked about in length with Mr. Dana Roach. Okay, Raging River.
Oh, God.
2 red for an enchantment. The original text says this, and I dare you to follow along, listeners. Okay. When you attack, non-flying defending creatures must be divided as opponent wishes between the left and the right sides of the river. You then choose on which side of the river to place each attacking creatures, and attacking creatures can only be blocked by flying creatures or those on the same side of the river.
And the crazy thing, this is only 59 words.
Wow! That's upsetting. I like how it references the river, like that's a section of the play mat or the play area. The errata is slightly less confusing. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, each defending player divides all creatures without flying they control into a left and right pile. Then for each attacking creature you control, choose left or right. That creature can't be blocked as combat except by creatures with flying and creatures in a pile with the chosen label.
Okay.
It's so nonsense. But this is actually a good hops card.
Yeah.
We're talking about attacking already. We're talking about flyers, right? Like you can force people into making maybe some bad blocks. It's a kind of a modal card for your opponents. And if you want to buy the real version of it, only a paltry $177.
No, not a big deal.
They're throwing it away.
They're just giving them away.
Yeah, exactly.
I thoroughly like this because this is like a ghostly prison, but very more complicated.
Yes, exactly.
Gets in with the deck, and I genuinely feel that if I plop this down, people are going to look at it, ask me to explain it. I'm going to do the best I can, and then they're going to say, "Well, I'm just not going to swing at you ever until it's gone."
Right,
and then it'll just be enchantment removal fodder. Because that's how I view a lot of these older cards, and I'm sure you'll be talking about a certain chains later, because I know you could not resist. But
it's too easy.
But that's another one to where it's like people see it and it's like, well, I got to figure out a way to blow it up because I don't want to have to learn how to use it.
Right, exactly. Like I don't even care. And then and it also is like when you attack as well. So I see a lot of times you could be like, hey guys, I'm not going to attack as long as you don't mess with me, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have to go through the river.
The river.
What is this? The World Series of Poker? Talking about the river? Boom!
God. Well, my first hops card, it's one of my slimy word picks because it does have a lot of flavor text to help get me there. So with 47 words, we're putting in Creepy Doll. 5 colorless, artifact creature construct, rare. It's a 1/1 for about 50 cents. Creepy Doll is indestructible. Whenever Creepy Doll deals combat damage to a creature, flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy that creature. A child's porcelain doll went missing one night, as did a pair of kitchen shears and the town magistrate.
Ooh,
so
very spooky.
I looked at this as like a fun stuffy doll type thing, but it's like, okay, there's nothing I can do with stuffy doll really in the deck. Like whenever you're doing a Mimi deck and you're just like going off card art or words, you can't put in very niche cards that need help. But this, I looked at it, I was like, well, it's 5 mana, it's indestructible, and I just got a forever blocker. And potentially, I got a 50-50 shot to murder someone or murder a creature.
Right. Half the time it has death touch. Other times it's just a great blocker, right?
Yeah, or you even make it better by throwing double strike on it. Oh, I whiffed on the first one. Let's hit again and try again.
So 2 parts. One, I found out recently that if you block, because I've been playing Arena on my tablet, if you block a creature with trample and death touch, it only soaks up 1 point of the damage, and the rest of it goes through. And that fucked me big time in a game I played recently. Second, if you're building a coin flip deck, a real, honest to God coin flip deck, not like this BS that WotC's selling us, which is just a Voltron deck that has coin flips in it. This is like a slam dunk auto include, right?
1000%.
It has to be.
1000%.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can put the thing on it where it can block a million different creatures. Oh.
But the thing is, though, you can block a million creatures, but it still has to have a point of damage for each of them to actually be able to assign combat damage. And now, if it said whenever Creepy Doll blocks a creature, that's a different story. That would be stupid busted.
Yeah.
But no,
that would be
stupid busted. Because basically what you're describing, Tuck, is what I tried to do with Taunting Elf and Basilisk Collar. When I first got into Magic, I was like, I just put Death Touch on it. Everyone has to block. He kills everything. And the guy at the LGS is like, well, which one do you want to kill? And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, he has 1 power. Where are you going?
1 point of damage, yeah. I choose to divide that into 0.1 damage here, 0.1 damage there, and so on and so forth.
All right. Well, Tuck, give us your second hop card.
Okay. It's another black card that's actually really good, but that doesn't change the level of complexity in it.
Are we doing it?
And
is it chains?
Not quite yet.
Oh, okay.
Or do you just want to do that? Should we just do that?
Well,
let's just get out of the way.
It's not mine. I actually took it out. I took it out.
Oh,
because here's the thing:
okay,
it's actually not as complicated as you think. It's actually
it really
so
isn't.
easy.
It really isn't. But the Oracle text is so stupid.
Yeah.
Or the okay. Anyways, spoiler alert. That'll be later. Right now, I'm talking about our old pal Dance of the Dead.
Oh, okay.
A colorless, and a black for an enchant dead creature, notably not on the reserved list, which I think is kind of wild.
That
so
is
this
wild.
could see a reprint. I mean, Oubliette saw a reprint. So, anyways, okay, this is how it was written. Take target creature. It's an enchant dead creature for starters, which doesn't exist anymore. Take any target creature from a graveyard and put it directly into play under your control, tapped with +1/+1, just static, not a counter or anything. Treat that creature as though it was just summoned. The creature does not untap during its controller's untap phase. At the end of his or her upkeep, its controller may pay an additional 1 colorless and black to untap it. If it's removed, if Dance of the Dead is removed, bury the creature in its over's graveyard. Jesus. So it has since been errated to the much more straightforward enchantment aura. Enchant creature in a graveyard. When Dance of the Dead enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in the graveyard and gains enchant creature put onto the battlefield with Dance of the Dead. Put enchanted creature card onto the battlefield, tap to your control, and attach Dance of the Dead to it. When Dance of the Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. At the beginning of the upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, that player may pay 1 and a black. If that player does untap that creature, that's not any better.
I was just about to say. So I counted the OG copy, 77 words. I think the new errated has more.
It has to have way more, right?
Yeah.
I think the way I honestly think the way it was written originally is better. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's more straightforward almost, right?
Mm-hmm. I would totally agree with that. And honestly, because I'm very curious now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's highlight. How can Google Docs tell me how many words I have highlighted? So, funny thing, Tuck, as we're talking about this, we got the count. The new is over 100 words versus the 70-something apparently it was before. So, holy bananas.
It doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, to be honest with you, but what are you going to do?
No, it doesn't.
It's still a good card, though. That's the weird part. Like, this sees play a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I play it in my World Gorger deck. It's amazing.
Ooh, nice, yeah.
And honestly, for this deck, like I talked about with your Evolution Charm pick, I'm going to want ways to bring out these big overcosted creatures that just have lots of words on them back to the battlefield in the most cheap, efficient way possible. So, yeah, great pick.
Thank you.
All right. My second hot pick, Tuck. I don't know if you've heard of this card. I definitely hadn't heard of the card. This is a piece of Magic history. Cheapest copy is $100. And the OG, the original printing, is the text we're working off of. So we're talking about Blaze of Glory. 59 words. Blaze of Glory states, woof, and this is hard to see. Blaze of Glory, instant, 1 white. Target defending creature can and must block all attacking creatures it can legally block. For example, a normal non-flying target defender can and must block all normal non-flying attackers at once, but it cannot block any flying attackers. Controller of target defender may distribute damage among attackers as desired. Play before defense is chosen. So now this has been errated to cast a spell only during combat before blocker is declared. Target creature defending player controls can block any number of creatures this turn. It blocks each attacking creature this turn if able. Woof.
You got the stuffy doll. You got the piece of the combo for it, or the creepy doll.
Oh, I do. Look at that.
This is it. Yeah, you can use a Tarka's command to pump it up 1/1 and give it reach.
But it's still the same thing. I'd have to have a point of damage to put on each one. It's still the
right. But I'm saying you use a Tarka's command to give it +1/+1 to reach. Now it's a 2/2.
Sure.
So now you have 2, and then somehow we copy a Tarka's command, and the beat goes
Basically,
on.
we're looking to spend about 80 mana to blow up like 10, 15 creatures versus the 4 mana Wrath of God. It's really what we're getting here, guys.
Exactly.
But honestly, this is a very cool card. I mean, I would love to run this if it wasn't $100. That's just insane.
Yeah.
But I think it's perfect for this deck. It gives me defense. I can use it, and it doesn't say my opponents. So I can do it for me to protect me from a bunch of swingers. I could do it to screw over one of my opponents. to make them end up blocking, there's lots of ways I can manipulate it.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good. I think it also does stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's like, I tried to find everything that does something. Like I think that's big today as well.
All right, Tuck, give us your last hop.
Okay, so now that we've hacked the way the word count rigmaroles, I got them covered from here on out, which is genius move, Mr. Combo. So let's go into it. Chains of Mephistopheles. I think this is one that people talk about a lot. And funnily enough, this doesn't even come close to word counts that we've talked about today. So Chains of Mephistopheles is a 1 and a black enchantment from Legends that states originally each time a player draws a card, that player must first discard a card from his or her hand. If there are no cards in players' hands, take top card, not the top card from library, and place it in the graveyard instead of drawing. This enchantment does not apply to the first card drawn by a player during the draw step. So that's 58 words in it. The errata text says if a player would draw a card, except for the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, that player discards a card instead. If the player discards a card this way, they draw a card. If the player doesn't discard a card this way, they mill a card, which is 50 words. So the Oracle text saves you a whole 5, 8 words all over. And honestly, it's still complicated. It's still overly complicated for a card that doesn't really do anything, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the reason initially the reason I cut it is my hops was already filled out. And initially, I've never played Chains. I've never seen Chains played. I just hear about it.
Nope,
and I thought I had heard it was like some complicated win con. So initially, when I was doing like my build out, I was like, oh, let me just put it in yeast, and then I'll Google and figure it out. And
I'll figure it out later.
And then there is a win con, but it's the sweatiest thing. It's like you do Chains, you do a wheel, and then you play the rack, and then your opponents just slowly get lightning bolted to death over turns. Oh. Yeah, it's super lame. Okay. Yeah, it's super lame.
Yeah, that is super lame.
So that's the reason I had cut it. But I do agree, if I'm doing this kind of deck, this is a card I have to have in there. And it's even one that I would have to break my proxy playtest rule, because I will not pay $1,500 for this card.
You're not paying $1,500 for a heavily played version of this card that doesn't really do anything?
No way in hell I'm doing that. So I think this is probably a card that if I wanted to adhere to my morals and kind of how I look at Magic, I won't be able to put it in the deck because I don't own a copy. But it might be one of those things that I get a playtest copy made. I have another card that's always in the deck. But then, as I sit down at a pod, I could say, hey, guys, I got a full legal deck, but I would love to put in Chains. Here's the gimmick. I'm just doing lots of text. Are you guys cool with it? This isn't a real card. And then people can just kind of say like, oh, that's hilarious. I've never seen that card played. I'd love to see it. Or no, they're a stickler like I am. You need to own a copy of the card. And it's like, okay, that's cool. No big deal. I still have a deck that I can play.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like with this deck in particular, I think you're probably going to be able to get away with it. That's how I feel. But what do I know?
All right. Well,
I would let you.
Sure. Well, you know what? You're full of chaos, so that makes complete sense. Well, my last one is also another. I think this is a piece of Magic history. Sometimes I need a coffin to deal with my antiques. Oh, so we're talking about
this was on
Tawnos's Coffin. I think that's how I say that.
Yep, that's right.
Part of the reserved list. Good old 85 words.
Good God.
All right, so it costs 4 colorless mono artifact, $270 from Antiquities. You pay 3 colorless, select a creature in play. That creature is considered out of play as long as Coffin remains tapped. Hence, the creature cannot be the target of spells and cannot receive damage. Use special powers, attack, or defend. All counters and enchantments on the creature remain, but are also out of play. If Coffin is untapped or removed, creature returns to play tapped. You may choose not to untap Coffin during the untap phase. That was very complicated. Here's the errata text.
I'm so confused.
You may choose not to untap Tawnos's Coffin during your untap step. 3 colorless tap, exile target creature and all auras attached to it. Note the number and kind of counters that were on that creature. When Tawnos's Coffin leaves the battlefield or becomes untapped, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its own control tapped, with the noted number and kind of counters on it. If you do, return the other exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control attached to that permanent. So just really good removal is basically, it's I look at it like Mariki or Merrick, the, not Esper, Oh my!
It's green,
white, blue.
Bant.
Thank you.
Bant.
The Bant legend, where it's kind of like you're stealing creatures, but it's only while she's untapped, and then once she gets untapped, she destroys the creature. That obviously doesn't happen here. This is a worse version of that, but it is colorless. I'm in 5 colors. It'll be very easy to cast, and it doesn't say I have to do it during sorcery speed. There's no condition. I just get to do it when I want to.
And it's interesting seeing this because I mentioned it briefly because one of the things I was going to put in here was Oubliette, which solves all of this by just saying it phases out.
Yep.
Right? Which is interesting because it's like, why doesn't it just say 3 colorless tap, target creature phases out until Taunus's Coffin becomes untapped? Because doesn't it do the same thing?
That would be a lot easier, but I bet you...
Why are we not working for them?
Well, I think it probably has something to do with the fact that the card is written to actually exile the creature. So technically, you would get an ETB effect when the creature comes back, versus phasing, you get no enter the battlefield effects.
Right, and then to your point, Oubliette does say that creature is considered out of play for as long as it's in play. Considered out of play, not out of play. So, nice. Good eye there.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up the board state and hop profile.
Bye.